Order and stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Trustee Thering as chair for this meeting.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Treasurer Rogers.
Here.
Trustee Lay.
Here.
Trustee Lannon.
Here.
Trustee Thering.
Here.
Clerk Cody here. Supervisor Monkey and Trustee Brown is excused.
Approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 This evening, we have some presentations. Manager Stuhldreher, would you like to start us off?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have with us our two representatives to the Chippewa River District Library that this board has appointed sometime in the past, Mr. Lynn Laskowski and Miss Ruth Helwig. If you'd like to come up and address the board, that'd be great. Good to see you.
Hello. Well, we like to come every once in a while and remind you that we do still have a library and we are still doing things for our citizens of our community. I know Lynn has a bunch of things he's going to cover in his presentation, and we're going to be short, we promise you. We could go on for a long time, but we're going to be short. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the programs, and hopefully you know about the different programs of the library. Lots of things. They're doing school assemblies last year to kind of do a kickoff for the summer reading program, which is huge. A lot of people participate in the summer reading program. They had at the summer reading club finale, they had baby cows, and that was a huge hit. Unfortunately, I didn't make it, but I heard everybody had a great time. The big circus event that was held a couple of weeks ago with Parks and Recreation at Morey Court. I don't know if anybody got to that. I know there were, the figure I heard was around like 400 people attended. I was there. It wasn't as busy as last year. We know a lot of people are sick right now, so that probably contributed to the lower numbers. But kids had fun. There was a performer. There were games. There were lots of activities, lots of community organizations participating. So that's a great event for families. The library participates in the story. How many of you seen the story walks in the parks?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something that has been a great addition to our community. There's the one in Isabella Township Park, and then the one down at Island Park. The stories get changed out periodically, and then families get to go around, read the stories, and enjoy nature at the same time. A couple of years ago, the library took over the cemetery walk program. Has anybody been to that? Okay, it's been on back. The Isabella County Historical Society used to do it, and then they stopped doing it, and the library took it over. And what they do is pick out some people from local history, find people in the community to portray those community members, and you walk through the cemetery, stop at their grave, and you get their history. And I'll be a shameless plug for the Isabella County Historical Society, because Christy Folsom, the librarian who does this, is going to be speaking at the Commission on Aging next Tuesday at 7 o'clock to the Historical Society, and it's an open meeting. Anybody can come, about how she chooses the people, how she gets this set up, how she finds the actors, the people to portray. So anybody's welcome to come to that. So I'm excited. I think that's going to be a fun talk to listen to. Another thing the library has done, how many have heard of the Library of Things?
Thanks.
Okay, so the libraries a few years ago started expanding into something called Library of Things. And so you can, in addition to books and ebooks and music and all of the other things that you can get at the library, and this is just a sample, I'm not going to list the whole thing. You can check out cake pans. You can check out a GoPro. You can check out bird watching kits, which were put together with between the Audubon Society, the Friends of the Library, and the library. So you can get binoculars and some birding materials, and you can take your family out and go birding. Portable power stations, a car diagnostic tool, electricity usage monitor, a stud finder, a knife sharpener. So there's all these kinds of things that you need, but you don't necessarily want to buy and store at your house, that you can go to the library and check out for a few days and use and give them back, hopefully in good condition. So there's the library of things. Another thing the library has done the last several years is the Manhattan Film Festival. So I don't know if anybody's ever been to that. It's usually done in cooperation with Celebration Cinema, and it's independent short films, and that are going to be a part of the Manhattan Film Festival. And you get to go and view these and vote on them, and so have a part of a broader film experience than we would normally get in Mount Pleasant. Another thing that, how many know that they have Roku sticks that you can check out?
What'd you say?
Roku sticks. Do you know-
Okay.
Yeah, like a Fire Stick or, the different kind. This is great. There are ones for Prime Video, PBS, Peacock, Apple TV, Paramount Plus, and Disney and Hulu. And I did that. There was a book I had read a few months ago, and I can't remember one of the streaming services, but one of them that I had a movie about this book. And I thought, gee, I want to see this movie, but I don't want to subscribe to another streaming service just to watch this one movie. So I went and checked it out, plugged it in, watched the movie, took it back. So if there's like a series you want to see, or a movie you want to watch, that's good. Some of you have probably heard about the building project. There is a plan, and there has been a plan for a long time. For a long time to get rid of the annex. We never intended the annex, which is the old post office, to be there as long as it is. But years ago, the funding wasn't there, the things didn't come together. So over the course of the last multiple 20 years, money has been put aside, fundraising has been happening. And so we've started to work with an architect. We're in very early baby stages of that, but to replace the annex with a more functional space. Anybody who's been in there, you probably know the heating and air conditioning is very weird. People that use that as a community space or a meeting space, especially people with hearing problems, have a terrible time because they can't hear. So that's something we'll have more to share on at a later time. That's a little bit still in its very infancy. Other than that, lots of great things going on. I just came before, I was telling Lynn, there was a joint showing at this Celebration Cinema with PBS of a movie about libraries. It's an independent film that was created about libraries, which will be shown on PBS. And so it was pretty interesting. I didn't get to see the whole thing. I left, but that's something to kind of keep an eye out for. And then I guess the only other thing I would say, and then before Lynn's got some things he wants to share, there are lots of things going on, that the library community in general has concerns about. There's some concerns about, how many of you used Mel or Melcat? Okay, so Melcat provides a lot of databases for our state, and the Melcat sharing, which connects the different libraries, public, university, special libraries, where you can borrow materials from other libraries. That comes from federal funds. So there's a big question mark in the library community, will this go away? And a lot of people use that to borrow books from other libraries, to get access to business databases, medical databases, things like World Book for students, homework help for students. It's used from K-12 up through the academic libraries. So we're kind of in a wait-and-see attitude to see what happens there, but that's something that the library community has an eye on. Is that funding going to be there to continue with that great resource for our community? So So on that happy note, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, it's good that the hour I had planned has been worked down to about 3 minutes. I think I can make it there. I wanted to talk about some areas and services of the library that you may not know about or may not know much about that I think are pretty helpful to the community. And as Ruth said, we are both very, very pleased to represent Union Township, and we greatly enjoy our work. Our board is made up of very happy people that are there to do good things for the community. On the lower level of the library, there is a family computer room, and it's loaded with furniture that would be, helpful for all ages. It's comfortable. There are 5 computers there and a large screen TV. The thing that caught my attention the most is the get the name right here, the Lightzilla. How many remember the Light Bright when you were a kid or your children? Yeah, my children played with the Light Bright, and it was good stuff. Well, this one puts that little one to shame. This one is about yay by yay, and it's a great family bit of entertainment. It's made to be used, and the children can make their own designs. They can create their own games and play in there and have a really, really good time. And it's worth it just to see the Lightzilla. It's a treat in itself. Next to the family computer room is our Founders Room. The Founders Room is designed to hold meetings of maybe 10 people or fewer. And in the process, there's a computer there also and a TV screen so that they can project materials and cover a lot of work. It helps bring their studies, their situations to life by being able to see those screens and work with that idea. Another thing that's very important to us now on the main floor, maybe you know that we have about 5 study rooms that are right on the main corridor. Well, one of those has been redesigned in a sense to be a room that would feature an ADA adjustable table, which allows the wheelchair to be pulled into place or rolled into place and allows people to do the work that they would like to do. The really nice thing about it is that there is a computer there. There's also a printer right there within easy reach, so that everything is really, really set up to help those folks. There's also a magnifying device, which I have yet to see in process, but it really helps with their vision. And another nice feature is that this is just around the corner, maybe 5 feet away from the reference desk. So if their help is needed, it's very easy for another library assistant to step in and take care of some things. It's really nice to know, my mom having lost probably 98% of her eyesight by the time she passed away, large print materials are not only important to older people, but to young people, which kind of amazes me. And one of the goals of the library is to continue each year to raise the budget to buy large print materials. And I think that's a really, really good move. Children are always invited to our libraries throughout the entire system. One of the special needs situations that we can help with would be the spinners that the kids like to play with. We have the pressure calming lap blankets that they can use, and also extra noise canceling earphones so that they can concentrate on like the story time or the things that are going on in their presentations. And I'll talk a bit more about children in just a second. Another thing that I think is really cool, because I'm a huge promoter of museums, and I'm a volunteer at the Jesse Besser Museum in Alpena. And I've gained a lot of respect for the people that work there and for museums in general. Plus, I've been to the CMU Museum, and I find that very fascinating too, is that our library offers, we have about 25 cards that we can offer to families. They come in, let us know, and if the tickets are available, they can get tickets to the Impressions 5 Museum in Lansing, and it's free. You can take probably 3, 4, 5, 6 members of your family, or you can go to the Midland Center for the Arts and see the museum there. You can go, of course, to the Discovery Museum in Mount Pleasant and the Ziebwig Center, and these tickets are good for 3 days, and again, they are free. I think that's a deal you just can't beat. The Roku, Ruth mentioned, I think is very important. I think we have that at our cottage, and I never watched the program Bull while it was on. Did anybody remember Bull? He was a very fascinating dude, and he studied juries. And my wife had told me about it, and I thought, oh yeah, another court show. And then I watched one, and I thought, this is really good. This is exciting stuff. So we watched 30. We watched all 30 of the shows, and I'm just sad that it's not being, hasn't been brought back, because it was pretty clever. The library does offer e-cards. E-cards are different than your regular library card, because the library card entitles you to use all the services of the library and to check things out. It's a physical type card. The e-card is one that you can pay for so that you can go online and research or do all of the reading that you need to do or would like to for the project that you have, or just for your own entertainment, your own growth and knowledge. And those cards can be purchased for $35 for 3 months, $70 for 6 months, or $130 per year. And you don't have to renew it if you don't want to. You could just let it go, because maybe your major project that you were working on, whether it be wildflowers or this or that, you could use it and be done, or you could let it lapse and then pick it up another time. But the e-card is very, very popular, and more people are taking it. It's easier to work and read at home sometimes than it is to pack up and go to the library in the winter, or if you're going to be out of town and you know you'd like to be doing some reading that would be cool, then check it out on the ebooks. Ruth mentioned the local history, which I think is very fascinating. My minor in college was history. I also taught history at Clare High School, and with the use of photos and artifacts from the past and the voiceover presentations, I think this is going to be a phenomenally great asset to the community. We're really grateful to have that. Children, again, children enjoy stories. Children enjoy dancing. Children enjoy songs. And in the process, we have at least 2 times during the week in the mornings a couple of programs designed for children 0 to 5 years old. And parents, of course, are welcome. And the kids have all those good things going for them. And one of our goals, I guess it's a little selfish, but one of our goals is to have those children get the idea that a library is a pretty cool place. And we think it is. And so we just want that to be with them also. So that brings me to the end of my hour. But there's one more thing that I want to tell you about. And it's about 2 guys that work at the library. One is Tim Parrott, and the other one is Keith Parrott, and Tim Petishnek. And these guys are our Tech Wednesday specialists. They're there all week. But on Wednesday night from 6 to 7:30, they will bring you back to sanity if you are having trouble with your new phone, or your trouble with your computer, or something isn't working all right, and you have very little hair left because of all the pulling that goes on when we get things that we just can't seem to make work. These guys are understanding, they're knowledgeable, they're patient, and they're energetic. And if you need some help with your computer, if you need help with electronics, go see them. They laugh at no one's struggles. They will make you feel better when you leave, and you'll leave with a better understanding of how to put together whatever you're trying to do with your phone or your computer. So there are so many other things that we could talk about. The library is important to us. I think it's important to everybody that we have opportunities to use the services that we're so blessed with here. Ruth and I think speaking for Ruth and myself, we are grateful that we've been able to represent you for these years. My term ends in December, and I'll probably be hearing from Mark. And I had thought about not running again, if you will, or being on the group after about, this is my 3rd term, Mark? My 3rd term, which would mean about close to 12 years. But then the more I think about it, I can't give up a good thing. And the only reason I was thinking about quitting was that if I'm at the cottage sometime, and now we can't do Zoom with a meeting, or we can't do a phone call with a meeting, I don't want to be the one that makes it so that we can't do business. We need to have the quorum just like you do too. So I think I would love to be back, because it's a very worthwhile thing. Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Mr.
Thank you,
Liskowski?
guys.
Thank you, Lynn and Ruth.
Mr.
Does anybody have
Liskowski?
Thank you.
Questions?
Questions? Question?
I knew you looked familiar, and I was one of your students 4+ decades ago. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good to see you again, and you're involved in something very important.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yeah. Did I treat you nicely?
You very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a stow.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, there were quite a few stows.
Yes, there were.
And
Still are.
Bertha was our hero.
Yes,
Yeah.
bus driver.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So nice to see you.
Fantastic lady. Nice
Thank
to see
you.
you too. I also enjoy, Audrey and I go to Clare quite often, just because of all the time that I spent there for 32 years. It was a wonderful place for a young kid that, to start his career in teaching and then do 32 years there and met some terrific people. And so we love to patronize the stores in Clare, and it's a great spot.
Okay.
Go to Clare whenever you can.
There you go.
I'd
Thank you.
just like to add one quick thing. When Lynn was talking about Keith and Tim, it's not just Wednesday. You can call and set up an
Yes.
appointment with them anytime
Yeah.
that they are there during the week. And they will, and it's not just computers and tablets. I bring some really weird computer, or tech questions to them, and they're great.
Yeah.
So
Thank
don't
you.
limit yourself to Tech Wednesday.
Yeah, you can make an appointment during the day, but if you want to make sure that, you know, you have all the time you want and, you know, your work doesn't let you go there during the day, you can see them then, on Tech Wednesday. But they are great guys, and you'll leave much happier than when you got them.
And thank you for letting
Thank
us
you.
come.
Thank you
Thank
both
you.
for coming
Thank
this
you.
evening.
Thank you.
We have no public hearings this evening. We do have a closed session on the agenda.
Oh,
Maybe
Commissioner England.
before we get to that, the courtesy of our representative from the county commission might want to speak.
Oh, you know what? I didn't see him walk in. Thank you.
Different chair this time.
Yeah, you're normally sitting right here.
Yeah, I know. I'll be real quick as possible. Just want to update you on a few things that's happening. I told you guys before we started a new system within the board, and it seems to be working real well. Get my English proper here. We've had a nice discussion, and then we have a week before we actually vote on it, and we have some more discussion on it. So one of the big topics we had, of course, the jail is 99% complete. There's about 300,000 some odd change left in buyout. So when the jail was designed, it had for a body scanner in there, and that's one of the discussions that was taken out of the project. There is a spot that was designed for it, so the discussion was, do we put it back in because it's 200,000? After a lot of discussion and split board, we'd never really voted on that, but we decided because there's a $50,000 grant, if we take it out and the county tries to buy it, there could be $12,000 savings in tax, and then we'll try for a couple other grants to try to get that project in. I'm one of the big supporters of it, just because I've been on the chairman of the criminal justice for quite a while, and I deal with the drug courts and the teen drug courts, and one of the issues in this county is the increase of the addiction rates and drugs going in there. Unfortunately, with this new facility in here, a lot of people, we do not have enough treatment centers in this town, so a lot of times, especially people on the lower end, that is where they get treated out. So if you have a scanner, if you have drugs in the jail, you're really not treating them very well, because if it's available in jail, they're probably not going to rehab. So anyway, so we'll work on that. I think eventually we'll get there if we'll find money to pay for it. I think it's something that's the new technology on it works. So okay, real quick, just been going. Of course, we've been went to the city meeting the other day. Talking about the TIF program. I think the city will probably come somewhere in the middle, just because even though it's not a terrible amount of money, but we're working on a tough budget, everything counts. So, you know, the capture value is about $18 million. So, like this, our operating costs would cost the county $121,000. Commission on Aging would be 6,000. They actually even affect the library millage a little bit. Not a lot, but I'm sure that we've had conversations with the city and they'll come. Probably not at 100%, but somewhere in between there. So we didn't have a meeting Tuesday, so it means we'll probably not have a meeting this Tuesday. So it doesn't mean that we haven't been busy or not going to be busy coming up next week. We got the committee. I haven't figured the name of it yet, but going through the administration building. So we're actually going to tour that. We got a group that we're going in there. We're going to go over some of the stuff. Try to get that project going again. I know people are a little anxious, but we're getting going. So we got a new administrator, we got a new financial director, we got 2 new board members, and so I think we're moving pretty fast on it. That project will go on. We're also with the Heartland Group, which is the group for the material management plan. There's some deadlines. Those are due. It looks like those are going to be completed. Had some discussions with the Murph facility project with Closed Loop Foundation, and at one time they were only thinking about funding 50% of it, but now they want to fund 100% of it, and there might be some grants in there. The good thing is that the technology, we're looking at we're actually getting closer to looking at some of the equipment in there, and because the technology's changed quite a bit, the price has come down substantially. I like a system with less moving parts, so we're moving a little bit away from robots. Still optical sorts, but they're using more air, more like a combine. It keeps going around, and they keep sorting it. So that takes a lot of money off the price. Plus, as a farmer, it's less moving parts. So I will take any questions. I know you got a long agenda. You got things going on here, but if you don't have any questions, I will sit down and let you continue with your meetings. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe just a quick item. Mr. Engler mentioned the jail being 99% complete. The township has issued, and it's been, I think, a few weeks, temporary certificate of occupancy as it relates to the administrative area of the facility, and that's allowed some of their staff to start moving some files and things like that. We have not yet issued the full certificate of occupancy, which is needed before they can start bringing everybody over. But that's what we're at in terms of the building official and their oversight of the project. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a closed session item. Can we get a motion?
I move that the board meet in closed session under Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider written material from the township attorney that is exempt from disclosure by Section 13(1)G of the Freedom of Information Act.
Support.
Motion made by
Who supported
Cody,
that?
She did. She beat me.
supported by Rogers.
We have to do roll call.
Roll call, please.
Treasurer Rogers,
Yes.
Trustee Lay,
Yes.
Trustee Lannon,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
and Clerk Cody, yes.
So at this point, anyone who, pretty much everyone needs to vacate. 7:49. Up next on our agenda, we have public comment restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda at 7:50.
Anybody else?
We have nobody online.
Seeing we have no one sitting down and no one online, we will close public comment at 7:50. Number 9, reports board comments. We have a list of appointments that need to be made for the board of review. Do we have any nominations?
Do you want me to nominate them all at the same time or just separate?
Probably should just do them separate nominations, or
It's up to you. I believe you can do it all as long as
Then
you.
let's
say
do it
their
all.
Names and their terms.
yeah,
Oh.
that'd be great.
Nominate Jeanette Corbin, Sarjeet Chowdhury, and Jacob Trudell Lozano for expiration date 12/31/2026 for the
Second.
Board of Review.
Second.
Motion made by Cody, support by Treasurer Rogers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Our board of review is made whole again.
Yes, thank you. And for those, you may recall the board appointed these folks, I think, in November or December. And then I failed to ensure that they had taken the oath of office within 10 days of their appointment, which needs to occur within 10 days of their appointment. That didn't happen, my fault. So we're going through that action again tonight, and the board of review will be meeting in an organizational session, I think Monday, maybe Tuesday of next week, at which time Clerk Cody will be here to give them the oath of office. Thank you.
B on reports, board, and comments, the February monthly activity report. Does anyone have any questions for the manager? Our manager, Sewell Dryer, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I do not, thank you.
Moving on, Planning Commission, EDA, ZBA updates by, well, our Community and Economic Development Director is not here.
No, he's not, and he's been out ill. This is the 5th day he's been out ill. So with your indulgence, maybe we can have him come or just skip a month and let him do that
Absolutely.
in March.
Is he
I didn't
feeling,
ask him to be online
is he
tonight.
feeling any better?
Slowly.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's gone through the whole week. He was out Thursday, Friday, down all weekend, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week.
Well, we send him our best. Board member reports. Clerk Cody?
I have none.
Nothing. Treasurer
Is
Rogers?
this from the road commission meeting I went to?
Sure.
Okay, yes. I'm the liaison for the road commission, and we met February 13th. They went over several things, pricing for various materials, noted that scraper blades come out of Canada, so expected 25% increase in price. That was the majority of things. Yep.
Nice.
Thank you.
I've
Trustee
got-
Lay?
I've got nothing. My next meeting's not for another couple, months.
Understood. Trustee Lannon?
Sure. Attended the Isabella County Board of Commissioners regular board meeting on February 18th. Commissioner Engler relayed a little information that came out of that meeting. What was interesting, and he did allude to it, there was a request for a contract change order, and the way it was presented, there was a motion made as usual, but then a a change in the motion was made to take the body scanner out of that change of order contract. And so it was several line items. They made an amendment, removed the scanner, discussion. That will come up at another date at a meeting for voting on that particular piece of equipment. And then the approval was made to the amended original motion. So the scanner was a item that was a discussed issue by a number of citizens. It's an item that's highly important from the operations of the jail's perspective. And the budget established for the jail sounds like it was not exceeded, and there should be money to cover the cost of that piece of equipment. And so they'll have more discussion and determine if they deem that that expenditure is worthwhile. There was information shared that the Commission on Aging, with assistance through Central Michigan University, was able to receive a grant which allows them to purchase 114 call buttons
Oh, cool.
that can be placed in folks' homes who would be in a situation where they might need a call button for assistance at
Like
time.
a life alert type situation.
Nice.
Exactly. And so that was a great kudos to the Commission on Aging with the assistance of CMU to receive that grant. That was followed by the prosecutor, Mark Wasiak, and he gave a presentation on a need for additional office space in the prosecutor's office. Went into some detail, but it was ultimately approved to make an expenditure to create some more office space to accommodate the needs of that office. And again, there was a calendar established that's going to create another meeting or two time for the commissioners to have their idea generating type discussions. And they're working to get that calendar out, but it was approved to add some additional time. And that pretty much wrapped up that county meeting. I attended also the Isabella Council of Governments meeting, and that's the meeting where all the townships in Isabella County get together. And the presenter, this was February 19th at the Commission on Aging, happened to be the director of the Commission on Aging, Jen Crawford. And I tell you what, she put on one heck of a presentation. I'd kind of liken it to our library representatives. After listening to what they had to say, you know, there's a lot going on there. Makes you want to go there. What the things that are going on the Commission on Aging, sure, there's a lot of great programs going on. There's a lot of assistance for people, a lot of fun things to do. And you hear so many fun things to do. But there's also a lot of tough things going on there too, that they accommodate our elderly people. Their programs are pretty much gauged for people 60 and older, but they have exercise programs, they have lunches available every day at a very low cost you can go to. There's things that they talk about where help could be used in like delivery of Meals on Wheels, drivers for that program and drivers for getting folks to doctor's appointments and other appointments. And so they have a lot of opportunity to volunteer.
Do you have their contact information for their volunteer coordinator?
Sure.
Okay, that'd be great.
And so just, it was a great presentation, and it really spoke to me, what's going on at the Commission on Aging. And lastly, I attended the 2025 Board of Review training that was held at the Soaring Eagle the other afternoon. And every 2 years, Board of Review folks are required to go through this training. I happened to see some of the folks that we just nominated tonight at that training who are on the Board of Review. And I felt it really important to me to understand what Board of Review is, because one of the things that the citizens talk to me about is taxes, their property taxes, and why they are what they are, why you might see a decrease in your property value but an increase in your taxable value and stuff. And it gave me a great understanding that I feel like I can give a clearer explanation to the citizens we represent when they come to us for those sorts of questions. So that concludes my meeting reports.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Planning Commission, we met last Tuesday. We had, basically we had 2 different projects come before us that weren't quite ready for like a preliminary site plan, but more just wanted to have a discussion. The first one was property on Pickard that is looking to put in an open air business, Old Hickory Buildings. It's an OHB Properties LLC is the company, kind of like an outbuilding. So it's just a vacant lot, and the things that they want to do, they weren't quite ready to have the preliminary site plan, but we had a great discussion about it, learned a lot about it, and looking forward to seeing that in the future. The other thing we discussed was Mid-Michigan College, their proposed event center of 39,161 square feet. That, again, was the same situation. They weren't quite ready for a preliminary site plan, but we did have a lot of discussion on the project. Very excited about that. We have kind of one little thing, and it's not little, we have one thing that they're trying to work through, and that is the height restriction. And there are some, for the B4, there are some, in our packet, we had several different options that we could potentially go through to maybe make that happen. We did kind of talk about one of the options. Written down, and I do not have it in front of me. One of the options, though, would potentially allow them to have that go to maybe more than 35 or to 45 feet. I believe it. I spent the time to write it all down. And
James, what group is this you're talking about?
Mid-Michigan College.
Oh, okay.
They want to put an event center.
Yeah, okay, great.
Oh, I'm going to read this.
They
and
gave a really
find
good
it.
presentation. I happened to be there.
Oh,
What was that?
It was here.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, I had to pick up my husband, so I got to sit and watch the presentation.
Can shoot out an email
Here it
later.
is.
Their architect is very knowledgeable.
Well, my apologies. In our meeting packet, you'll see it's option B is what we talked about a lot. So you'd have to go back and look at that. My apologies.
It's okay.
But if that's the option we go with, then that should make that project go forward a little bit faster and get to where we need to be on that, so. Other than that, that is all we had. We just had those two items on there. So that is it for reports and board comments. On to consent agenda.
Motion.
Consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Support?
Motion made by Cody, support by Rogers. Yes, sir.
If I may, I would request to remove item H and possibly put that under new business A and slide the rest of the new business items down one.
Do we need a motion for that, or is that?
Yes, motion to approve consent agenda, removing H and putting H under new business A. And all followed.
Under new business, E?
A.
A?
A.
So, the motion's there.
So
And
you
then
want to move everything down?
Everything down, yeah.
Supported?
Okay.
All in favor?
Motion made by Cody, supported by
Like,
Lay, to move consent agenda item H to new business item A, and then all others take the next letter following. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Accounts payable, that was me, and I didn't see any issues, so. With that being said,
So the new A.
we are on new business item A, which is the 2025 Isabella County Road Commission gravel road participation contract. Manager Stuhldreher, did you want to start us off?
Thank you. And there is a report in the packet that begins on page 33. We're asking the board to consider approving 3 participation contracts with the Isabella County Road Commission to rehabilitate 3 miles of gravel road within the township at a cost of $49,255.09 and authorize the township manager to sign said contracts. The road commission recommended that 2 miles of gravel road ought to be serviced, those being Millbrook Road from Crawford to Mission, and then continuing on Millbrook, Lincoln to Crawford. The road commission has a program where for the first 2 miles of the gravel road program, they split the cost of a mile 50-50 with the township. So for each of those miles, our share is $12,313.77. The road commission would be paying the same share, so that approximately $24,600 is the cost for 1 mile. $12,003 is our share, and that's applicable for both the Millbrook Crawford to Mission and Millbrook Lincoln to Crawford Road. The staff is also recommending that we refurbish an additional mile of gravel road continuing with Millbrook, but this time from Whiteville to Lincoln Road. That would be $24,627.55. That's the cost of gravel refurbishing for 1 mile. Since this is above the 2 mile threshold, we'd be paying 100% of that mile. So our total cost would be $49,255.09. Township has just a hair under 20 miles of gravel road, and over the last 4 or 5, maybe more years, we've been refurbishing about 4 miles per year. So do the math, every 5 years, we've refurbished all the gravel road in the township, and the plan would be just to kind of continue that cycle. So with that background, I'd be happy to answer any questions the Board of Trustees may have.
I'm going to make a motion first. I'll make a motion to approve the 3 participation contracts with the Isabella County Road Commission, ICRC, and the rehabilitation of the 3 miles of gravel roads within the township in the amount of $49,255.09, and authorize the township manager to sign the contracts.
Second.
Motion made by Cody, seconded by Rogers. Discussion?
So I just wanted to share with you all some correspondence that I received today in regards to the third item, the gravel work on Millbrook between Whiteville Road and Lincoln Road, the 1 mile, where the township will be paying for the 100% of that work. And this was just shared, an opinion shared to me from a county road commissioner. Just mentioned, I just drove that mile of Millbrook from Lincoln to Whiteville. It won't do any good to do that mile till the farmer doesn't plant to the edge of the road. Just like on Lincoln from Deerfield to Millbrook. Someone has to enforce not filling in the ditches and planting to the edge of the road. So it's just an opinion of one of the road commissioners indicating their position that he didn't feel we should do that 1 mile.
And it had to do with the farmers planting right up to the road, kind of caving in or filling in the ditches so the water can't.
I interpret it as that, yes.
It's a
Planting right up to the road, destroying ditches, which would take care of water drainage, which
Right.
in turn won't help the gravel situation on the road that we're trying to
It'll
do.
wash out.
But I just felt I needed to share that with you.
I mean,
In
it
that
was one,
instance- What?
it was one person's opinion, and it was the recommendation of the entire board
Right.
for that.
That's correct.
So-
Absolutely.
But if it's,
I mean, it still needs to be redone. It's not a good.
no, I'm not, I'm just thinking, how do we
We don't.
improve that situation?
We don't.
But when the.
We
when-
can't. We have no say in what they do, like to the edge of the road. It's not in our, it's the road commission, the county has to do it. We can't.
As far as the farmers in the ditches?
Yeah, it's in the right of way.
Okay, okay.
So there's not, the township can't.
So in that instance, the road commission goes out there
I mean,
and they have to hold the power to. So you
yeah.
pull it back.
So again, the decision is ours. It sounds like it was a recommendation actually from the township to include that mile. But just sharing what was relayed.
May I have a
Yes,
moment?
please.
Thank you, and appreciate forwarding, you bringing up that communication. It did not go to the full board, did not go to me. We had our annual meeting at the Road Commission. Many of you were there about a month ago. This recommendation is coming from the Road Commission staff. I'm not going to get into anything how the internal workings of the Road Commission and staff work. Not going to go there. I will say that throughout the township, and this is not the only gravel road where this is applicable, there is farming all the way up to the edge of the road, and that is a problem. But it is I believe a bigger problem, and it's a problem that's come up, it's been talked about in the past, many times, I believe. And I would have to look into with a little more specificity as to where the enforcement authority rests. I believe it is the road commission, since it's in their right of way. And it's not a pleasant thing to enforce, but that's their deal. And they're gravel roads too. And we try to partner with them as best we can to provide some funding for the roads in our township. And so with that, that's all I have to say on that. This is our recommendation. You can do with it as you wish. I appreciate you bringing that comment forward, Trustee Landon. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more discussion? We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah,
Roll call.
discussion,
Do you want to?
discussion.
Doesn't have to
Oh,
be
I'm
roll
sorry.
call.
So just hearing what I just heard, if in fact it is the road commission's authority to try and make sure that the rules and regs of the right-of-ways are adhered to, they probably should do that. We're putting out 100% of the cost to taking care of this road. I'd like to help assure the best we can that our money being spent is being spent in a way that the road that we intend to maintain and improve it can be kept for as long as possible in good shape. So if there is some sort of operations going on that go against what is right-of-way code of ethics or policy or rules, then I think we should ask that be addressed by the authority having jurisdiction with the adjacent property owners to these roads.
On the map, it shows a little blue oval basically around the proposed road, and it says it's the 300-foot buffer. Would the drainage they're talking about be included in that buffer? Is that what that's for, or what is the purpose of that buffer?
That was just put on there by our GIS person.
Okay,
It has
I was
nothing
just-
to do with this discussion.
Okay, I was just wondering.
She's just trying to show, you
Yeah.
know, where the location of it.
Okay.
That's not the
Okay.
size of the right of way or anything. It has nothing to do with
Okay.
this discussion.
Do you want a roll call? Do you want a roll call?
Yes.
Treasurer Rogers.
Yes.
Trustee Lay.
Yes.
Trustee Lannon.
Yes.
Trustee Thering.
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. All yeses.
I don't
Thank you.
disagree with what you said, Trustee Landon,
Yeah.
about asking the authority, you know, we want to make sure that our dollars go as far as they go, and if there's something that needs to be done, I think it's a fair ask. And then let them decide how they want to handle it, I guess. New business item B, presented by Ms. Smith. Township Hall preliminary architectural feasibility report and presentation. Manager Sewell-Driver?
Thank you, and while Ms. Smith's coming up to the podium, just a little background. I think it was at the beginning of the last Board of Trustees term that there was some discussion had regarding looking forward, doing some long-term planning as it relates to our facilities. And over time then that prompted the administration coming to the board asking for funds to conduct what's titled a preliminary feasibility study on a new township hall. And That work commenced, and it's been going on over a year or so. That report is now out, and turn it over to Ms. Smith, who, as Director of Public Services, part of her span of control or authority, if you will, is facilities management. And so she led this effort with the planning team. And so thank you, Ms. Smith, for the presentation.
I'm just waiting for Tara to. I will say it was a great presentation by the library. I didn't really want to have to follow.
It was.
They talk about fun stuff.
There was a lot of things I didn't know.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
either. Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff that they didn't even talk about that's on there too, that they do at the library.
And I just needed an impact wrench. They may have
There you
one.
go.
Right. I just signed up for Peacock so I could watch a movie, and I'm like, I could have went and got one of those.
Yep.
Does Hazen needs to bring it up?
Yeah.
Hazen, can you bring up the presentation? Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. As Mark talked about, we put a team together and worked on a preliminary architectural feasibility study. The team consisted of the professional design team was Goodrow and Associates. We've worked with them on several projects, and we worked with them on the Jameson Park project. We also worked with them on the expansion at Isabella when the Public Services Department and Administration moved out there, and we did the remodel. So we've worked with them several times. So we worked with them again on this study to take a look at what we wanted to do with the Township Hall, what our options are, what kind of costs we may be looking at, timeframes, those type of things. And in association with Goodrow, they brought on Clark Tromley Randers, which is their mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers that Goodrow works with on a regular basis to look at those facilities within this building and do an assessment on them. There is some information in the report that you got that talks about what they looked at and some of the things they found for this existing building. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this presentation on that, but there is some good information on there and some of the issues with this existing building that came from the work that they did to determine what we're looking at this building. And then they also did quite a bit of work for what we would need to do in a new building, you know, looking at sizing and those type of things, so cost estimates could be come up with. So with Goodrow, we worked as a team here at the Township. We met with them several times. The team consisted of Mark, myself, Rodney, Sherry, Lisa, and Amy Peak. And each of us represented a little bit different, you know, what our needs are for our departments, what kind of needs we needed for space. We all had ideas on meeting spaces that were needed. So everybody brought a little bit different perspective to that team, and I think it was very good interaction and information that came from that. Working, you know, people from different areas of the township. Lisa had great ideas and knew what she needed for elections. Amy was very helpful with what kind of needs they had for the front office area. So it worked out well, and those people were, you know, we met several times, and everybody was very helpful with input on what they needed for their particular area and what we needed overall for a township hall. So the goal of this was to complete a preliminary feasibility report to evaluate the best option for providing a township hall that services the citizens, the staff, and the boards that all work and interact here in this building. And I think we did a good job with the preliminary one, and I've talked a little bit, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. In July of 2022, the board approved a contract with Goodrow, and after that approval, we then Goodrow did some front-end work so they could gather information, Goodrow and then Clark Tromley. We did walkthroughs through this building. We gathered historic information on repairs, as much as we had. Since I've been doing this, I had quite a few records of things that have been done in the building, but we were able to find some things from when the expansion was done to this building. So all of that information was gathered, and they used that to help come to some of their conclusions. We identified deficiencies in the building and as far as layout and function. And then they provided a needs survey that went to the planning team, but then it was also shared with other employees. For instance, I shared it with several people in my department that gave input to the questions that were in the survey to help Goodrow understand what some of our needs are. And then we spent quite a bit of time identifying uses of space, how we want to collaborate as groups, like with the staff, and how the boards collaborate, and the functions that we would need in the new building, elections, and if you have somebody come in, what you might want to take them off into a little building off to the side of the front office to just have a quick talk with them, because you don't want to have that. A talk like, maybe they have a question that they want to discuss with somebody, you could walk them into a little meeting room or a little area instead of just having it out in the front lobby. So we talked about a lot of it, and we had a lot of discussion about that. So over the next several years now, this started really at the end of 2022. By the time they did their walkthroughs, gathered their information, I think our first meeting was close to the end of 2022, and then all through 2023 we met numerous times and talked about the layout, the uses, the collaboration, and then after each one of those meetings, we worked with Shana from Goodrow. We've worked with her on all of these projects. She would go back and she would redo floor plans, and we'd redo parking lots, and so we went through that process several times. She was very patient with us, and I think at the end we came up with a good, something that everybody was happy with. So we looked at three options when we were doing this. We looked at this existing building. If we kept this building here and added on, and it would be added on to the south, and the layout of that, the parking lot configuration, what would have to happen with the site. And then the next option was if we left this building and built a new building on this site. And where that building would lay, and some of these in the report, there's diagrams of where those would be at, but that would be up in more of the area between this building and the water tower. So the end of this parking lot, the upper parking lot as we call it, and then the water tower. And we have some restrictions. There's obviously a water line that runs from that tower out to Pickard. Well, you don't want to build over top of that. It's an important water line. There's other restrictions, but we looked at that, and that's where that option would be. And then the third option was locating a township hall on a new site. And we did talk about different areas of the township, but I think at the end of the day we landed on property that we already own, because that's quite a cost savings. And that property is located out on Deerfield in Mission, behind the underground party store, where you've heard me talk about several times now. We're drilling a new well, which we did take into account when we placed that well on that property, if we wanted to use a portion of that property for a township hall. So that was all taken into consideration when we did the well, because we were in the process of doing this, so we looked at that as well. So those were the three options that we looked at. So option one, that was the renovation of this building on this site. That's a rendering of what we came up with once the addition was put on. The existing township hall is 6,000 square feet, and it was built in the 60s, and then we had an addition in 1996. If you walk around the building, you can kind of tell where that addition is at based on where brick walls are at, which used to be the outside of the building. This was part part of this room wasn't part of the addition, the small conference room, the back area, outside of the lobby. I mean, you can kind of, when you walk through, you can kind of tell where, I mean, I know where it was at. I worked here when they did the addition, so. And then the new addition would be 12,400 square feet, and the total building would be 18,400 square feet. That's slightly larger than the other two options, and that mainly has to do with the restrictions we have for load-bearing walls and putting an addition on this building. What's already here, and we have to leave. So it caused the building to be larger than the other two options, which are both a new building. So then the other, option 2, is new construction on the existing site. That would be 17,600 total square feet, and that's new construction. And then option 3, that's the same rendering, only from a different, or no, I'm sorry, excuse me. That's the new building. As you can see, it looks different than the other one. It's not as long, because you're able to do a lot more with a new building, because you're not dealing with all those existing conditions. The option 1, which is addition to this, that's a really long building. So you'd have a long building, and then the second option would be, whoops, thanks, Tara. It's hard to talk and remember to advance the slides. You're doing a great job. I appreciate it. And then this is the rendering that we came up with for a new building, which would be the same rendering for both options. I gave you 2 different angles on that. And again, this is out on Deerfield and Mission, and the building would face Deerfield Road. The reason it wouldn't face Mission, we looked at that. There's some very low area on that property on the Mission Road side, as well as we have a pump station there. One of our largest pump stations is located there, and there's power lines that would have to be dealt with. The Deerfield Road was a much better option for having visibility and building on that site. So some of the things that came out of option 1, which is the existing building, it's a single story. This is a single story. The new building would stay a single story. Structurally, the building's in good condition. There's been maintenance done on this building over the years. There was an addition. Structurally, it's not in bad condition. Functionally, the building is too small for voting, for the staff, for board meetings, and storage. We have storage in the basement, but the basement is prone to flooding, so it's not great storage. Plus, it's hard to get things from the basement up the stairs. It's quite a job to lug things up and down from the basement. This building's very fragmented, and there's safety issues in this building. We have multiple HVAC systems in this building. Some of them are older than others. There was original boiler that was here that when the building was built. There's been other HVAC systems as the building was added on to. There's actually an HVAC system in the basement that's been discontinued because of changes in the building. It's still down there, but it's just in a closet not being used. We lack ADA compliance in this building. And then one of the biggest issues we have is the site drainage and the parking lot configuration and sizes. I don't know about you, but when you pull in here, if you're coming from the north, you better hurry up and get out of everybody's way and get into that other lane and get in the parking lot, because cars are coming through pretty fast. So that's an issue. And I already talked about the flooding we have, and we would have to have significant fill at this location to add on. We have utilities here. They would just have to be extended into the new addition, so that's a positive. And if we add on to this building, we would possibly have to relocate the township operations while the addition was being done. We did talk about some options for staying in the building, like you would build the addition, and then at some point, some people would have to move, and then you try to do the, make it accessible to the old part, and then that would have to be remodeled, but that would be pretty tricky. So there is a possibility, if we went with that option, that we would just have to move out of the building at some point, the people that work here. Because you couldn't have citizens coming in here, you couldn't hold, board meetings would be hard to hold when you're trying to remodel. It wouldn't be safe at certain points for staff to be in the building, so those were some of the issues we talked about. Then option 2, that's a single story, new construction. We'd have sufficient space and workflow. As I said, we went through several changes in the building to try to get the workflow and make sure people had light in the areas they were working in, and making it a friendly space for people to come into, and that we had enough restroom. I mean, we went through extensive talks on a lot of that. One thing that would have to happen if we did a new building in that parking lot is the demolition of this ball field right outside the back door. As you know, that's very close to this building. It's possible that even if we added onto this building after further research into the stormwater issues that we would have, we may have to lose that ball field as well, even with the addition, because the ball field is so close and we have flooding issues in that ball field at certain times of the year. We have utilities that on this site, and they would need to be extended to the new building, but operations could remain while that building was being built, because this building would still be here. So we'd be able to maintain operations in this building while the new building was being built. And for the purposes of this study, the Township Hall would be demolished once that building was constructed on either site. And we just didn't research into that any further than that. We just said, okay, at this point, we'll just say we'll demolish it. I don't know that you'd want to have a new building sitting here and then this building stay, but maybe if you went out at the other site, keep this building for something else if it was feasible. But those are just things that could be answered later on down the road. So for the purposes, that was the option we went with for both of those options, just option 2 and 3, just to make it easier to come up with numbers and things. And then option 3, new construction on a new site, that same building, single story. That site would have to have clearing and grubbing, a lot of excavation. It's wooded, a lot of shrubbery. There are some low spots. We did pick the Deerfield, off the Deerfield site because it is the higher portion of the property. We have sufficient parking for staff and visitors. There's utilities available. They would have to be extended onto the site. We will have water there, but the operations at the Township Hall can remain. We again use the demolition option for this building. There'd be new and efficient mechanical systems and insulation on either option 2 or 3 because they're both new buildings. And we also did look at, when we did the layout for option 3, the possibility of a trailhead being placed on that property adjacent to our parking lot so that they could have a dual purpose, because the Township Board has talked about that in the past. There is a walking trail through there, and we could do something, but the cost and that wasn't included in this study, but we did look at that when we looked at the layout so that we could leave that option open. So now we get down to the cost. So these are preliminary project cost estimates. Each option was costed out for the layout, the floor plan, took into account, drainage work that would have to be done. But remember, these are preliminary numbers. We did use a high contingency for unforeseen items, 30%, and the reason that the planning team decided to make those so high is because we do have a lot of unknowns. Because this was a preliminary study, for instance, we don't know what the cost would be to fix all the drainage issues that we have on this site. We're not, we don't necessarily know all the costs that we might have if we went out to the new site to get those utilities into the buildings, because you got to have power and gas, and so we used a high contingency just to try to get a good number, a good preliminary number. And then the estimated basic design, that's a percentage of the construction cost, and that only includes the design for the building. That doesn't include, because you're gonna have to have a civil engineer, there's other factors that will go into that. I listed some of those on the slide. So each option, 10.5 for option 1, 10.3 for option 2, and 10.2 for option 3. Pretty close when you're talking about a $10 million project. They came in fairly close. So once we saw that number, the planning team then discussed, okay, I know that, the difference between 10.2 and 10.5, it's a couple, it's money, it's significant money, but on a $10 million project, it's not significant enough that your whole decision is based on cost. So then we sat down as a group and we talked about what option are we going to recommend as a planning group. And, Lisa was there, Mark was there, and I was there, and it was an interesting, I thought it was an interesting discussion, because I don't think that what our recommendation is what everybody in the room initially thought it was going to be. And so what we finally agreed upon as a group was option 2, which is constructing a new building on this existing site. And some of the reasons for that recommendation are a new building provides more function, it's energy efficient, there's collaborative space for people to work and meet, for both the citizens and the staff and the boards. And this existing building just offered so many layout issues. We spent an enormous amount of time trying to get a layout that would work for this existing building because of where the load-bearing walls are at and other problems that we have to deal with. So at the end of the day, we thought, there's just so much that we'd have to do, and we'd end up with more square footage than we actually need, and spaces that we were just trying to find uses for because they have to be there. And the other thing that was a little surprising, several of the people on the planning committee felt like the township has a well-established presence here on this corner. Township Hall has been here for many, many, many years. We have McDonald Park behind us. People identify with that. And we have our largest water tower with Union Township written on it, right next to the building and in front of McDonald Park. So we have a big presence here. When people out in the community, when you talk to them and you say, oh, Union Township, like when I tell people I work for Union Township, a lot of people say to me, oh, you're on the corner of Lincoln and Pickard. I'm not actually there, but I'm there. So there's a lot of people identify this as Union Township. And both of the sites had challenges, so that, we weighed those and felt like, well, we have challenges on both sites, so because of the other factors, we felt option 2 still was our best option, and they had relatively close cost estimates. So again, that wasn't our driving decision maker, because they were so relatively close that we felt like, well, we're just going to take that out of the scenario and talk about the other reasons we would want to stay here in this location. So, next steps. I know this was probably a lot of information to digest in, less than a week. You got the packets on Friday, but the next step would be to the planning team has made a recommendation. But the next step would be for the board to decide which option they would want to move forward with the information you have. Look at the report, maybe talk about it, ask questions, and then the board of trustees would ultimately have to make a decision which of these options you would want to move forward with. And then if you did decide to move forward and you chose an option, then you would need to give the administration direction that you're ready to go forward with the next step, which would be the development of a final feasibility architectural study. I know this sounds like a lot of studies, but we want to make sure when we go into this project that we're making the best decisions possible, have the best information possible, and the best information that can be given to citizens and users of the building that is, that we can say, you know, we did our due diligence. We know what our best option is. We know what those costs are going to be, and we know why we made this decision. We need to be able to stand behind whatever decision that is made. Because there's always going to be people who say, well, you don't need to do that, or you should have done this. But if you have good information going into it and you've done your due diligence, then it's easier to talk to people about that and to justify it. And so the next step would be a final feasibility study, which would be a much more detailed evaluation than what we did here. And it would do more of an in-depth site assessment, so we could look at some of the problems that we would have on both of the sites that we've identified. Drainage needs, we'd look at the building layout more, but we did, like I said, we did a lot of extensive work with that, so I think we would, you know, there would still might be changes and tweaks that would have to be done. Site plan, utility costs could be gathered, financing options. You know, we have to talk about how this is going to be financed. And then more refinement of that preliminary cost estimates. Now, one of the things we did when we first met with Goodrow, we actually decided to model the study after the USDA rural development plan that has to be done whenever you do one of those projects, because there's a level of detail that goes into those that when you go to do financing, whether it's USDA or you go out for bonds or however you're going to finance a project like this, they're defendable. You've done your due diligence, and that's what these reports do. So that's why it was modeled after the USDA rural development model, so that it's defendable and that we can have the information we need no matter what options are decided as far as financing or an option for just building the building. It gives you that information that you need to be able to make those decisions. And the best guess we have for that right now, we don't have a cost for that at this point because we haven't gone to that next step. We won't do that until we get some direction from the board, is $75,000 to $100,000.
So thank you, Kim, for that. And I want to just have a couple comments before open it up to the board. I want to emphasize that this is all about planning. And these things take a long time to plan, particularly in the public sector environment compared to the private sector environment. From my professional perspective, long term, this building is not going to serve the needs of the township. And by that I mean the citizens. And by extension of that, I mean the staff and the board of trustees. But that's long term. And I don't think it would be at this meeting, but a subsequent meeting where the board would need to begin to start talking about and making some planning decisions about what you want to do regarding this facility in the long term. And by long term, I mean like 10 years or something. If the assumption is Union Township's going to continue to grow in population, then your staff will continue to grow in numbers, and at some point you're not going to have a place for them all. This meeting room, you guys deserve better than something that looks like this for your board meetings. It's functional, but you and the citizens deserve more for your board chambers. This is not to be thought of as just a conference meeting room. This is the Union Township Board of Trustees boardroom. Emphasize this is a preliminary feasibility study, and Ms. Smith mentioned a final feasibility study. The keys are feasibility. I think this study does a pretty good job of setting a baseline, if you will. You could use these numbers and extrapolate them out for the next 6 years if you just add 3 to 5%, and it'll be roughly a pretty good number 6 years from now. This study does include some allowances for furnishings, but there are a lot of things that this study probably does not include that would be part of a final build, particularly as you get into the IT area and refine things like furnishings and that kind of thing. But it is a starting point. If the board, through further discussion, says, forget it, we're not interested, we're here for the next 4 years, we're not going to spend any time on this, then we'll just set this aside. Alternatively, after your discussion, you may want to have additional information, more refinements to this information. That's the final preliminary site plan. To obtain good information for decision making, it costs you money. And right now we're just throwing out 50 to 100,000, or maybe it's 75 to 100,000. Yes, it's money, and this study itself costs $24,000. But when you're talking about building a building that's going to be, by the time you build it, $12 million, and you hope it's going to be as round as the approximately 50 years that this original building was, it's chump change compared to the risk of getting your decision wrong and getting all your numbers wrong, and you can see how that plays out in various ways in any community if you've paid attention at all. So the board asked us to begin looking into this. I think we've done that pretty well. It's now going to be up to the board to decide basically what's your appetite for eventually having a new facility. And you'll discuss that, and if you want more information, I see at least 3 checkpoints along the way. You can, after the discussion, maybe with all 7 of you, you go, we're not interested, we're fine, no problem, end of story. On the other hand, if you want some additional information, we'll do that. It'll take a year plus, cost you $75,000 to $100,000, my guess. We'd be back here with a proposal from probably Goodrow to refine these numbers. Whether you build a new building here or on Mission or over, pick a space, it's going to cost about the same because it's just building the building and putting it in a site location. You may have to buy the property, but the cost of the building, whether you build it here or Mission, give or take, is going to be the same amount of money. You build it in that farm field over there, it's going to cost about the same amount of money. So that's what I wanted to conclude the presentation with, and turn it back to the chair.
Any discussion?
Thanks, Kelly. That's nice.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
I'm sorry? Yeah, go ahead.
So being part of this, I was in favor of the 2. I just didn't give my opinion throughout the time, like as far as where it's going to be at. But I thought 2 was the best spot. just because the location. And this building, like, you know, the walls are falling over there, so it'll have to be reconstructed. Anyway, people wouldn't be able to work here at the time. That's why I thought 2 was the best option. That's my personal opinion. We did go through everything and what we're gonna need in the future, election-wise, staff-wise, everything, and I think overall it was done very good. They did a good job.
So I guess if I'm asking for anything right now, it would be at a minimum, do you want an item on a future agenda for the full board to discuss this, or are you done?
That's what I would like.
I think it would be
Yes,
a good idea
Yes.
for the full board to have a
absolutely.
discussion. I mean, just sitting back, understanding this is a long-term, potential long-term,
Yeah.
if we did anything, just start a pathway for that long time, be it the study, be it starting to put money away for that. I don't know if that's possible or how that would be done, but start looking at that going, yeah, eventually, someday, it will need to happen, so to start to prepare to put funds in for that a different board would probably then execute at that time, so.
And maybe it'd be after that meeting where we'd get additional direction, if any, as to doing a final preliminary study. And then keep in mind, even after that's done, you still have all the freedom in the world to decide we don't want to go any further, or we do, and at that point, we'd be back to you with a contract with a firm to do things like construction drawings, construction administration fees, the big contract that sets the administration off to actually bid the project, put it out on the street for bid, and that would be another checkpoint. Do you want to award a bid? So there's 3 or 4 or 5 checkpoints along the way. But the more information you want, and if you want it to be pretty good information,
Yeah.
it's going to cost you a little money. But in my view, that's money well spent if you're serious about a new building.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think tabling it until, like, putting it on as a
A full
future,
board.
yeah, I think that's the way to
Future.
go, future discussion.
We all in agreement to, especially to get the other 2
To bring
members
it
on?
That's,
back.
yeah.
Okay.
Bring it back for a full board, yes.
All right, thank you,
All right.
Kim.
Thank
Thanks
you,
again,
Kim.
Tara.
Item C, under new business, is discussion, action on Meridian Road, Isabella County Road Commission participation contract. Manager Stuhldreher?
There is a report on page 84 of your agenda packet. The project involves, I'll use the term refurbishing Meridian Road from Remus north to Baseline. It's 3 miles. The total cost of that project, $712,000 and some change. Union Township, if approved, if this agreement is approved, would contribute $178,000 and some change, as would the Isabella County Road Commission, Deerfield Township, and it was Deerfield Township officially that was awarded a 2% grant for the tribe then to, it's labeling, so the tribe would be contributing $178,000. So there's 4 partners, some as a result of the 2% grant, and then Union Township General Fund, Road Commission, whatever fund they would have in Deerfield Township. It's an overlay, gravel shoulders, narrow shoulders, the location of the road. We're not talking about wide shoulders. We're not talking about biking up and down it. and it is a boundary road, and hence the involvement of Deerfield Township. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the participation contract for the Meridian Road from Remus Road to Baseline Road with the Isabella County Road Commission, ICRC, for the HMA overlay, light wedging, and gravel shoulders in the amount of $178,065.35, and authorize the township manager to sign said contract.
Support.
Motion made by Cody, supported by Rogers. Any discussion?
No, I
Yes,
think
sir.
it's
This is a great project.
Yep.
It's a road that needs attention, has needed attention. We have done some Band-Aids on it in the past. But it's a great project in the sense that it's a boundary road, and 4 entities are coming together to share the cost on this. So that makes it pretty palatable from my position to appropriate those expenditures to improve that road.
It gets a lot of traffic. I can see it from my house, so
yeah, I think it's a great project.
it's a great project. It needs to be done.
Take a roll call vote.
Treasurer Rogers,
Yes.
Trustee Lay,
Yes.
Trustee Lannan,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
and Clerk Cody, yes. All yeses.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
New business item D, policy governance 2.2, treatment of staff. Manager Stuhldreher?
Thank you. And the report begins on page 87 of your agenda packet, policy 2.2, treatment of staff. This is to be reviewed annually by the board during the month of February. At its highest level, the policy states that with respect to the treatment of paid and volunteer staff, township management may not cause or allow conditions which are unfair, undignified, disorganized, and unclear or violate collective bargaining agreements. There are 5 sub-policies articulated in here. You can read them. They basically indicate that management shall not stifle productive, non-disruptive dissent. Framed another way, we want all the opinions we can get before we make decisions, internal, external. The board should, or the staff should be allowed to appeal decisions to the board, particularly if they're not related to collective bargaining agreement. You already have a procedure for that. It also indicates that if a member of staff feels that the board is violating your own policy, that they should feel free to come forward with those concerns. And it also, and I'll point this out specifically because this is the one area that we're not yet in compliance, that we are to be operating with written personnel rules. I say we're not in compliance. We have several documents, but they're dated 1997, 2002, maybe 2004. So I could show you a document and go, we're in compliance, but it's not anything that I'd put my name behind. It's just too old and not outdated. It's not to say that it wasn't a good product at the time. I interpret this policy to indicate that management shall operate with clear personnel policies, make those available to staff, provide for effective handling of dissent, which protects the staff. We also, in this policy, we're not to be engaging in things like nepotism or differential, preferential treatment just because somebody is a buddy of somebody, and that all responsible folks in management should know and be intimately familiar with the collective bargaining agreement so that there are no violations of the same. I think this interpretation is reasonable. Of course, we should have current written personnel administrative policies. Of course, we should be adhering to collective bargaining agreements. We should be training staff so that they know how to do their jobs well. We train them from a cross training perspective as well. We need to be paying attention to our volunteers, whether they're paid $50 for a meeting or not. They're still volunteers. I do have some data here in front of, as part of the report. Our current collective bargaining agreement expires at the end of this year. That will have been the end of the current 3-year collective bargaining agreement. We have not had any grievances since 2019 through today's date. We did have a couple prior between 17 and 19 when I kind of first started working here, and we haven't had any since. If that's not to say there hasn't been concerns brought out by staff, but if you read the collective bargaining agreement, we're supposed to try to address those at the lowest level possible, which is really between the employee and their immediate supervisor. And those supervisors and managers are encouraged to resolve that within the constraints of our policies and the collective bargaining agreement. We do a lot of cross-training. You see that is a item that we mentioned in every management report or monthly report: sewer and water operations, field crews, office staff. We have 2 front office staff that are now certified assessing technicians that allows them to legally address a certain level of inquiry in the taxation assessing, in the assessing field, by those staff. We send all our, certainly we make the opportunity, we do everything we can to get members of Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Board of Review to attend training throughout the year, and they're pretty good at attending those. We have many of the positions, particularly in the water and sewer side, require certifications. We have a system in place, part of the collective bargaining agreement, where we will pay a premium for somebody that, if the job requires a B-level license and the next highest one is an A-level, if they do the studies and do whatever's required and obtain an A license, even though it's not required for their position, there's a premium pay, an increase in their hourly rate, so that what we're trying to build is a well-educated workforce, irregardless of the field that somebody works in, and it also contributes to succession planning, and also being able to promote from within. It advances all those types of goals. There's a lot of it's interesting for those that have been here for a while. You may not fully appreciate this, but when I first got here, I was struck by how few meetings there were. And I know the argument, you can have too many meetings. You can also have too few meetings. And I thought we were having way too few meetings. So I meet, and have been for the last 9 years, I meet every 2 weeks with the department directors. We have a department director level staff meeting. Tara attends those. I'll let her go if we're going to get talking to something that's not ripe for her yet. But she's involved because of her, the integral role she plays in the whole agenda planning and production business. And, oh, by the way, she has then a lot of situational awareness of what's going on in the township just by sitting in on those meetings. Staff, all the department directors routinely meet with their staff. I also have one-on-one meetings with my department heads every 2 weeks as well. And that's all about communication, making sure we're on the same page, making sure we're complying with policies like governance policy. And as I indicated earlier, I do note in this report that the personnel administrative policy document does need updating. It's been a goal for a couple of years, and I'm really trying to commit to having that done in 2025. So as a whole, in the aggregate, I would argue that we're in general compliance with this policy, with the exception of maybe the not having a current personnel policy document. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Appreciate you pointing that out, what you find area where there could be some continued work to bring things up to date. And good to hear that.
With that being said, do we have some questions to answer? Was this report submitted when due?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Did the report lay out the manager's interpretation or an operational definition of the policy?
Yes.
Yes. Is the interpretation justified or is proof provided to explain why the interpretation is reasonable?
Yes.
Yes. Was I convinced that the interpretation is justified and reasonable?
Yes.
Yes. Did the interpretation address all aspects of the policy?
Yes.
Yes. Does the data show compliance with the manager's interpretation of our policy?
Yes.
Yes. Questions. Is there any area regarding this policy that you or that we worry about that is not clearly addressed in the existing policy?
No. I don't have it.
Is there any language that we would like to see incorporated?
Not at this time.
No.
I think the manager did a good job and
You want my paper?
excellent. Final new business item E, policy governance 3.2, board job description.
And this is a policy, that's applicable to the board itself. So this is an opportunity for the board to review your own compliance with this policy. I'll just kind of start things off for you. This policy, it's 3.2. The name is the board job description. And it's to be reviewed, monitored by the board for compliance annually. This is the month that would be done. And in the main, it's saying that that the board's job is, assuming there's an assumption made that you're informed and that your job is to ensure appropriate organizational performance, and you do that by speaking by policy or with policies. And the board is supposed to create several policies, and they all exist. You have created them. You review the detail of them every month. But for instance, you're supposed to have an ends policy. Well, that's the entire section 2 of your governance policy. You're supposed to have a policy regarding ends. That's your entire section 1 of your policy document. And I know you want to talk about those, I think, in maybe next month from your last board meeting. You should have policies regarding the governance process, how you all operate on Wednesday nights and leading up to Wednesday nights and during your meetings. Those are articulated in your document. And you're supposed to have policies regarding how authority is delegated and monitored throughout the organization. What are the responsibilities of the administration? What are the responsibilities of the board? So I think I'll just stop there, but I know there's some new folks on the board, and I just wanted to give a little bit of that background before turning it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you. If we would, we'll just go to the question one. Indicate item by item if we believe we are in strict compliance with the policy as stated. Does anybody feel that we're not in compliance with this?
No.
No.
Okay, we can kind of go by number two. Number three, how do you think the board could improve the process to be in full compliance? Do we have any comments on that?
I mean, just learn more. It's a new board. We're all learning as we go,
Yeah.
right?
Where I stumble just slightly is just wrapping my head around, how do we, when do we formally talk to our ownership and get feedback from the ownership, and if we're to represent the ownership of the township, is that, I'm just thinking, sometimes I just don't feel like, you talk to so many people, but it's only a slice of the pie of the people you see and talk to, kind of the same people, but
Like a town hall.
to
Yeah.
talk to the a broader group, a bigger demographics than I just come into contact with.
I mean, do you want me to kind of help with that a little bit? Like, from the years I've done it, or, people come up to me, ask me questions, and then I will, kind of listen to what they say and see what so if I would think, if it's about a manager question, I'd send them to Mark, or you could send them to, Rodney. If it, zoning, planning things, sometimes Peter, Jill, the assessor, when they have, certain questions on that. I mean, there's like different department heads, the water, you can refer them to Kim. But like, if it's something simple, well, I can look into that and maybe get back to you. And then you can maybe ask, or then send them to them if they don't feel like talking. If it's just a simple question,
My
Is that
mind's
what you
kind
mean?
of going to, it was presented to us to look at a $10 million expenditure. Have I heard from citizens indicating that they have interest in having a new township hall? And, that discussion has never really come up. And so just my communication with what we're doing with ownership, and even if I'm describing ownership correctly as being our citizens.
Yep.
And so that's just kind of where I wondered, how do I truly say, yes, we got this, this, and this, that we officially speak with ownership versus just casually or impromptu, and try to, and ownership, you can't, what one person says or 12 people say is just a small portion of 1% of, the group, so.
That's something we're looking to.
So
in the
that's just
future.
something I throw out as the group to try and understand. Can we really say, we're representing the ownership at the most appropriate level? Or are we, working off of what I would do,
Well,
So that's just kind of.
they have the opportunity to come to meetings too, and the
Yeah.
public comment, and then, so that the opportunity is there if they want to speak up about something every other week, they could come.
And we did get voted in to represent
That's what I was
them,
gonna say.
That's
They-
the biggest
They
thing.
choose us
Yeah.
to,
to do
that-
what's
that's
best
their,
for
that's
the
their
township.
biggest communication, that they believe in the decisions we're making, is that they voted for us.
I think if we were ever, depending on where this discussion goes, for example, on a $10 million project,
That, we need to have some
I mean,
transparency.
I think
Yeah.
we would work very hard to reach out to ownership. One thing that, and it's a question, I mean, it's a great question, because every year we talk about, how do we do a better job? What's the next new thing we can do? The one thing we did is made it easier for people to attend meetings. Not everybody has computers, but most people do. So if they can't come, they can watch and actually participate. That's one thing, but I definitely agree. There's other things that we can do, and I don't know if, for example, this project would move forward as we go, and we don't want to take up valuable space on our website, but an issue like that could be something that you might highlight, not necessarily for them to comment on the website,
Right.
but
Just to look at it.
to
yeah.
highlight on the website, even though they could go into the minutes and see the packet, but make it much easier right off the bat, if that's something that we choose. Or, for that matter, anything that we find
Yes.
Yeah.
that we really want to try to get as much ownership feedback as possible.
We are getting a new website, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think that's a huge step in our communication
Yes.
with our ownership.
We have had discussion in the past about newsletters going out,
Yep.
inserts and tax bills, which are going out anyways, or just avenues.
Yeah.
And really pushing out to the folks that how to communicate. We could put questions out. We could introduce staff, talk about what goes on, just all kinds of things. I think a lot of citizens aren't overly in tune to what goes in the municipality of where they live.
I know before I was elected, I used to watch the town hall meeting, or these meetings on YouTube. I mean, that was very helpful to see what was going on.
I mean,
Nice.
It's a good start, but
Yeah.
we shouldn't.
I know.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we shouldn't just stop right there.
No.
Yeah.
There is better ideas out there, or I'm sorry, additional ideas, not
Yeah.
necessarily better, but additional ideas that we can get this information
And
out.
if things are moving forward, and there's been talk about, you really have to have a body or a halftime person or whatever to do media and outreach and to do it right and to try to truly glean information back that you're looking for to get that out to citizens, and the encouragement that they communicate both ways. But just a thought, when I always hear ownership, and am I doing what the ownership wants, I just wondered how we can improve, bring it more current, updated, and you talked about a website and stuff.
I
Thanks
will
to-
remind the board in this arena that you had a survey conducted, so that
Yeah.
you do those every 10 years or so.
Yep.
The current one you have or the one you have now is fairly current, and that is a way to, and was a way to try to reach a broad audience.
Yep.
Trying to get citizen engagement in local
It's tough.
government is tough.
yeah.
And my guess is, for all those that have been in this environment for a while, when things aren't going well, the room fills up quickly.
Yeah.
And when things are going pretty well, nobody shows up, because I'd rather be home eating dinner or watching a ball game or, running my own life. So it's tough, but, yeah.
I think we pretty much answered the number 4 question just by
Yeah. Talking.
talking. Thank you, Trustee Lannon.
Very memorable,
Are we good?
too. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, next on our agenda is extended public comment restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue, we will open up extended public comment at 9:24.
Nobody's online.
Nobody's online, nobody's in the audience. We will close extended public comment at 9, did I say 7:24?
It was 9.
Oh,
You
you
said
said
9.
Oh, did I? At 9:25. Manager's comments?
Thank you, and I just have 3. And I don't know what it may exist, so I don't know if this is a reminder or just something that you'd like to make sure is more formalized, but all the staff has available to them $100 per year for what we call internally a clothing allowance. What it is an opportunity for like non-field work folks to buy, you often see me in Union Township, embroidered or whatever the word is, fleeces and whatnot. And I don't know if this board or any of the boards, one, I want to make sure you're aware of it, and 2, it seems to me that it ought to apply to the elected officials too, because you're often in environments where you may want to wear a fleece or something. Rodney has button downs, you know, Union Township will wear a tie with it. You see me in fleece that have that.
I like it. Yeah, I was looking at.
So, you know, you all go to your city commission meetings or your county meetings, and you have some, but I don't know if all the board's aware of it. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. If you're a little, it's only $100 per person, but
Right.
if you'd like, you could get something more formalized in your policy governance to indicate that it's there. You know, this with transparency and all that.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that up to the board.
Okay.
I will be out of the office again next week. It should be my last snowmobile trip of the winter, January, February, March, 1 week each. If snow fits, be in northern Ontario. I'll be naming an acting township manager. And then I also want to lift up the work that Treasurer Rogers has been doing since she's been elected. Her and I have been working pretty close together over the last several months, and she's really, she came in, hit the ground running. It was obvious that she wanted to be included, wanted to participate in those duties that are over there. And she's here a lot, and she's doing a lot of good work. And I appreciate that, because when you get right down to it, that's additional production capacity that's been brought to bear on the organization, which is very, you know, we can always use more production capacity, right? Well, you know, so anyways, I just wanted to thank you for the way you've entered this role, and make sure the rest of your colleagues on this board knew that.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
that's
thank
all
you.
I have.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you.
Final board member comments. Trustee Lannon.
So, a couple quick ones. One thing that has come across my mind before. We don't have a lot of history in this building about Union Township and who's involved and stuff. And I think creating history is good. You know, when it's current, it's okay. But when you look at something from years gone past, it takes on significance. But and especially if things would come to fruition where there's more wall space in a facility, that needs covering, but I think it'd be appropriate, and it wouldn't have to be expensive because people have cameras and things, but to get some photographs hanging that you could identify who department heads are, staff, the board, just maybe if we want to invest a little time and effort, and I don't think taking pictures costs much, but getting them framed and up might be a little bit more, but just a thought. If anybody's ever interested in creating a little history that you could show. Secondly, after listening to all the things that go on at the library, there was a point in time when technology was coming up, and it was like, our library's going to go extinct. You don't need to go in and read a book. But the activities that go on have changed with the times, and they're probably more active, at least probably more active and than they might have been in the past. They certainly are a little more noisy. You know how libraries you used to couldn't say anything, but now it's a lot of noise going on. But with that said, it just is hardening to me to think that maybe our federal government doesn't see value to how they talked about, there's a question about federal monies going to the libraries and stuff, but certainly wish the library systems throughout our country that federal funding keeps up. And it certainly could go away. You see our national parks losing folks, and I just bought a national park ticket, in the last year, plans to travel, but you read about layoffs, and just in the news last night, closure of one in Wyoming, basically, it sounded like. So just kind of sad state of affairs to think that. So hopefully the federal dollars listen to their ownership, us citizens, and listen to what's valuable. And just wanted to mention our next meeting is going to be March 12th. And I do know at this point in time I will not be able to attend that meeting. I got a conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lay?
Did you have something to say, Clerk Cody?
About pictures, there's some history in pictures over at the water department in their hallway. When you take a tour of it, you'll see some of those pretty cool pictures up there. The
On
new
South
facility.
Mission?
Yeah, the new one. Is that? Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, great.
Okay.
Which brings up, we might get a tour and get a chance to see. Oh,
Yeah.
there's some history there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, that's fine. I was curious. I want to piggyback off of what Trustee Lannon said about how we got to hear about two of our critical third spaces tonight. We got to hear about the Commission on Aging, which gives our seniors an opportunity to interact in community with one another, which is fantastic. And the library, which is a really great intergenerational third space where you have people from all age groups and families interacting together. And I think it's one of our great gems of our community. It was very, very good to hear from them about what the library has to offer. And if you're interested, Cook the Kit should be coming soon through the library. That's one of the things they did not mention, but it's really cool, where they partner with some of the, like McLaren, I think, and they give you vouchers at the farmer's market where you can get produce, and they give you all the dried goods you need to make the meal. And it's a great opportunity to try different produce that's seasonal that you might not typically buy for yourself.
Nice.
I'm good.
I'm okay.
Okay, so I found my sheet of paper. And so I am going to talk about that. Mid-Michigan College, again, presented to the Planning Commission for discussion. And one of the issues that we had was the building was going to be taller than 35 feet. And that's not allowed in the B4 zoning. And there were 6 different options that were there that we might be able to help them achieve that. The option that we are looking at right now, and we've asked Mr. Mr. Nanny and his staff to look at is option B, which is a text amendment to add a height exception for business schools, colleges, and universities. And some of the reasoning for that, just for that specific, and the reasoning for that is when this was originally made many, many years ago, as we all know, designs of buildings and the way we go to business, the way we do things have changed. They're only looking at just maybe 45 feet instead of 35 feet, or maybe just a little bit under that. So it's not like they want to make it 100 feet.
Right.
So that is something that we're looking into to see if that's something we can help them with. So
Good.
that's really all I have to say. Good meeting. Could we have a motion?
Move
Oh,
to adjourn?
is there something else?
No, I was gonna motion to adjourn.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
But, okay,
I moved to, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Treasurer Rogers, second by
Yep,
Cody.
sounds good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
I need.
Thank you, everybody.